for this is our last session for people, Pan-African History meeting for the year 2022. We respect all of you, we appreciate all of your support. Hopefully, we keep supporting the Love Black People movement for the upcoming years till we meet our goals and we fulfill our mission as loveblackpeople.com. We do appreciate the effort, your resources which you have been using along the year till 2022 year, and we do appreciate all of that. And also those who have been our country representatives using their own network, own data to join this meeting. We do appreciate you, and also all of you who spared this precious time of the year joining the last meeting of the Love Black People for the year 2022. We do appreciate all of you guys. Thank you all. So before we start our meeting, we'd like to welcome all our country spokespersons for today. We're going to represent their country and speak on different issues. We're also going to talk about the Kwanzaa celebration, and also many more topics which have been going to be presented by different countries from different nations. So without wasting time, I would like to introduce our brother from Madagascar. His name is Mr. Jimmy Ranitraxilo. Hope I pronounced the name well. Brother Jimmy, welcome to the Pan-African History. Hope everything is going well in Madagascar. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
It's a real pleasure to be here. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You can go ahead, introduce yourself, and also what you do, and where you're from as well.
Yeah. All right. It's a real pleasure to join you during this Zoom session. My name is Jimmy. I am from Madagascar. Now, what I'm doing here, first of all, I am the delegate of the African Youth. Delegate of the African Youth Charter here in Madagascar. It is one of my first attribution. Secondly, I represent the African youth for educating women and children in Africa. And finally, I work in the Ministry of the Industry and Trade of Madagascar. Yeah, I can go.
Yes, I can hear you. You can go ahead and get in the topic for today.
Yeah, for today, I just want to share one topic. I want to talk about the social representation of Pan-Africanism in Madagascar and in Africa in general. You know, most of the time we talk about Pan-Africanism, but the most dangerous problem about it is based on one things. First, we can say that Pan-Africanism is more considered as a tool, a political tool that politicians use. It is more a label that we pronounce and that we call most of the time. This is the first aspect of Pan-Africanism. As a cultural aspect, I can say that Pan-Africanism is a philosophy of life. As a philosophy of life, we have to take advantages of networking nowadays. We have connection, we are connected with internet, with all the applications that we have, and it is a very big advantages for us. For doing what? For promoting effectively Pan-Africanism. What I share with you today is more a philosophy of life and a way of living the vibes of Pan-Africanism, because we are interconnected and we have to put advantages from that. this is a kind of mindset that we have to reinforce in our daily routines. And most of the time here in Africa, we always say that we are poor, and this context of poverty is very hard for us because we always have this mentality of poor people, of poor countries, and it is very, very difficult for us, especially when we talk about Black people, for example. We always say that Black people are not really considered as a person or people who are able to do something. And we have to break this mentality because Black people are the power. And never forget that the center of this world at the beginning, Africa is considered as the, how to say that, the place where humanity was born. So we have to put into consideration all this context, all this vision to promote the real Pan-Africanism. That's all about my intervention. I just underline the fact that Pan-Africanism is a feeling, it is a good vibe. We have to make it concrete with real action. And action does not mean talking alone or complaining about one problem. Action means that we have to do something together, bringing this mentality of a leader and bringing all the positive things and positive impacts around it. That's what I wanted to say, and that's what I wanted to share to you today. And I just want to say that it's a real pleasure to join you, because if I look at every profile of you, I can say that it's a real privilege for me to join in a team like you. And for me, in Madagascar, I create one association, a Pan-African association that I named Sociality. Sociality is interconnected with the network of African Union. All around Africa, I have at least two connection with two leaders. I am connected with the Model African Union. I am connected, as I said previously, with the CFA, which is one axe of African Union who promotes gender education. And I'm connected with the network of the Friedrich Ebert Foundation. Thank you, Howard. If you have any questions, if you want to share more.
All right, I don't think there's anyone who had the questions in the chat room. Only comments about welcoming you and also to have a great year. My apologies at this end, people are preparing for the shows. As you know, our Love Black People offices are located at the Harare International Conference Center. So a lot of planning is going ahead there. Most shows are being held this side. So I'm out at the office now. I'm at the other side, at the hotel side, just on top of the La Patisserie restaurant. That's where I'm hosting the meeting at. So now we're passing over to our brother Sikwenda Sianyanga, away from Zambia. Welcome, brother, and appreciate you joining again. You can go ahead and represent. Previously, we have our brother Jimmy Arenita Silo. Is also doing a great work there in Madagascar. He's leading some of the organization as a youth. He's doing a great job, and we hopefully will continue doing a good job and continue to work with our Love Black People through the upcoming year. We appreciate you, brother Jimmy, for a nice presentation. We learned a lot, and also every day we learn new things about Pan-Africanism. And again, today we had another aspect of Pan-Africanism from Jimmy. We appreciate you. Yes, welcome, brother Sikwenda Sianyanga, all the way from Zambia. You can go ahead, introduce yourself, and present.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Yes,
Thank you. Can you hear me, Mr. Moderator? Hello, can you hear me?
yes, sir, we can hear you. You can go ahead and present. My apologies. This end, there's a lot of noise at the background.
Okay, no. Thank you very much. So my name's Sikwenda Sianyanga from Central Africa, Lusaka, Zambia. And I'm the student of history at Kwame Nkrumah University here in Zambia. And I'm also a Pan-Africanist country representative. So today, I just want to share with you, by the way, before I even go to my topic, I just want to wish you all my black brothers and sisters in Africa and those in the diaspora a happy Kwanzaa festival and a smooth and prosperity 2023. Coming to my topic, I'd like to discuss about unity, which is very important, especially to us Africans. I can proudly say from 1964 when Zambia got independence, I can proudly say that we have enjoyed peace and we really thank God for our founding fathers. May so rest in peace. Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda. He fought for the unity that we are enjoying today, and also all the presidents until the incumbent or the sitting-in president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, who was elected in 2021. But you know, I cannot be proudly say that I am happy because of the unity that we are enjoying in Zambia. You know, minus other, you know, nation, African nation, or my brothers who are still battering, you know, with conflicts. I would give a very practical example. A few kilometers away from the capital city of Lusaka, which is Kinshasa, Congo, DRC, we have seen the happenings there. Our brothers and sisters, our pregnant mothers, our young children, they are being humiliated by the fellow Black African called the M23 rebels. Therefore, I can say that I enjoy the peace in my country, or what is the use of me saying that I'm enjoying the peace in my country, Zambia, when my brothers in Somalia, in Ethiopia, to be precisely, Tigray region, you know, they are still battering, you know, with the Eritreans, I mean, soldiers, and of course, the Ethiopian soldiers, to be precisely the Amhara region, you see. So what I'm trying to say, my fellow comrades, is that, you know, as we are entering 2023, as Pan-Africanists, you know, we need to make sure that we advocate for the United States of Africa. We need to see our brothers and sisters in different parts of Africa, and even those in the diaspora, they enjoy the peace that we are enjoying in other African countries. Trust me, when this organization was being founded by our forefathers, Marcus Garvey and W.E.B, DuBois, the likes of Kwame, you know, Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, and of course, Nnamdi Ezekio of Nigeria, you know, I can name them. The whole agenda was to have a United States of Africa, an Africa with one army, an Africa with one currency. You see, and us who have, you know, taken over the baton, we need to make sure that we continue, you know, with the same campaign, so that our forefathers, who were the, you know, the founders or the pioneers of this great movement, can even be happy wherever they are. And I would also want, you know, to emphasize on my fellow comrades in this great platform, the Pan-Africanists, you know, representing various countries, of course. Let's make sure that we form, you know, pressure groups so that, you know, we can eradicate or maybe, you know, kill this virus of conflicts, which has, you know, destroyed, you know, a number of potential youths, and it has also displaced a lot of potential youths from, you know, the African continent. I would say that, comrades, Africa is, I would say the richest continent in the world, and we have everything. But the question that we should ask ourselves is that, why are we, not united? Why are we keeping on, fighting each other? Rumor has it some few weeks ago, there is a publication that I saw on BBC that it has been confirmed that the Rwandan government is in charge, or is the one sponsoring, the M23 rebels. No one knows the truth. It's only God who is in heaven, or Allah, who knows what is happening there. So what I'm trying to say, my fellow comrades, is that, let's make sure that we end, this violence in different African countries. Trust me, Africa cannot develop if we can continue with conflicts. And as I'm talking to you right now, Africa is fighting amongst herself. Quite all right, we may say maybe this wars, conflicts being facilitated by the Western civilization. By all in all, how can you allow your neighbor to come in your home and make, his own rules and convince you, meaning you are also in the idea. So, as we are entering 2023, my fellow comrades, let's make sure that we agitate and advocate so that, we enjoy, the peace which our forefathers or our fathers, fought for us. As I'm talking to you right now, my brothers and sisters in Nigeria, things are not at ease. We have seen the Foreni, we've seen the Hausi and the Igbo people, they have been kidnapping, we have been the issues of Muslims, we have been the issues of Christians, a lot of brothers and sisters, innocent children in different schools, they have been kidnapped. At the end of the day, these kidnappers, they are demanding for a ransom. So the question is, why?
Yes, Spender, you have a minute to wrap up. Unfortunately, the time is not on our side, so you can just wrap up. We are learning a lot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, comrade. So, all what I can say is that my brothers and sisters in this great platform, please, as we are entering 2023, let's make sure that we agitate, we advocate for peace. And right now here in Zambia, there is a pressure group that we are currently working on with my other, colleagues or stakeholders from the University of Zambia, which is one of the greatest universities in Zambia, and NIPA. We are trying to, coming up with an organization or a pressure group that, will be going around and advocate for this great movement, the Pan-Africanism, or Pan-Africanism, so that an African child, an African, boy or girl can know her rights and be proud of, her own African continent. By the way, once again, my name is Sikwenda Sianyanga, the country representative for Lusaka, Zambia, and I'm very much honored to be in this platform. I am called African village boy because I'm not born in Africa, but Africa was born in me. Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator, for this privilege. Thank you so much, and happy Kwanzaa. Asante sana, Mungu abariki.
Thank you so much. That was our brother Sikwenda, an ambassador for Love Black people all the way from Zambia, and he's also doing a great work in Zambia there, and planning a lot of things to do in the upcoming way. Wish you all the best, and we're going to pray for you to excel in your plans as well. Now we're going to have ambassador all the way from Guyana. His name is Ambassador Clyde Fowler, to present about Kuumba, the last principle for the sixth principle for the Kwanzaa, which is principle number 6. Yes, brother Clyde Fowler, you can introduce yourself and also tell us about what you're talking about the Kwanzaa celebrations.
Good afternoon, good morning. Thanks very much for this opportunity to be able to share. I'm hoping you hear me clearly. Today I want to...
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Today I was tasked with looking at Kuumba. But as you can see what it means on the screen, I took the liberty of doing that because it is fascinating. Listening to the two speakers before, I decided to put away my paper a little because what I get to understand is that we are dealing with creativity. And this word speaks to us. It speaks to us directly. It speaks to us as Africans because we have been creative. My brother said just now that Africa is one of the richest continents. And indeed, we have seen what has been transpiring over the years. But through creativity and through the messages that came over from those of our foreparents through the means that they use to get these messages to us today, that we can relive and live from what we have seen, heard, and even know. We know that there are an agenda, or there is agendas to try to derail what has been started. But through creativity, we have seen that despite what has been and what is happening, and what is trying, and whatever the elements are used to be able to derail us from our agenda, we are seeing that the creativity of our brothers and sisters have been tremendous. It's been above and beyond, and it keeps growing because we as African here in the diaspora or in Africa, we have what it takes to make a difference. We have seen it through our foreparents, through slavery. We have seen the suffering, we have heard about it. People have tried to cover up. They have tried to change our history. But we have come to understand that despite what come our way, we are able to make a difference. And thus, when I was doing the research on this word, Kumba, it speaks to me in a fact whereby I stumbled on Kumba having a smell. And it said it's as calming and alluring, with a note of warm florals, ocean air, and a light amber, like a blooming garden after a spring rain, light and sensual. This universally appealing scent soothes the soul with notes of fresh water and sensitizing sandalwood, soft, warm, and comforting. Today, being the last Saturday in this year, we would have, from the very beginning of this platform being used for such a tremendous work by the founder and the co-founder, our moderators and others, we have seen through the Pan-African history class, directed and given the opportunity to listen to Dr. Tyrone White, and through the healthcare lecture by Nana Akua, we have been transformed by their creativity. They are using a platform that is able to reach the masses. They're no longer standing in the classroom debating or giving lectures, but now they're on a platform giving more of themselves to more of us. And we want to say thanks to to them for being able to use their creativity to give us more. And as we would have learned, that the 6th day that we celebrate this Kumba principle, we have become more creative. And as you can see on the screen, there is the green passbook, the GreenBook, sorry, that is being displayed. I want to tell you that it's been created, the WhatsApp community for the groups. And you don't have to leave the groups to come into the community, but you don't have to always just be one way. Today, I'm here to tell you, if you have not downloaded the app, the I Love Black People app, this is your opportunity. Let us go into the new year. Let us go into the new year united. Let us go into the new year with creativity, bringing all that we have together so that we can be more successful in achieving our goals and getting closer. 2023 has promised to be a year that will cause us not only to celebrate, but cause us to rejoice with this fauna of greatness. Today, I am Clyde Fowler, an ambassador of Guyana Pan-African movement. And today I want to say, let us continue to be creative. Let us continue to leave a legacy, make more beautiful that which have already been established, and let others benefit from what we have inherited from our foreparents. Today I am because we are Ambassador Clyde Fowler. Thank you. Al Shalante and Shalom.
Thank you so much, Brother Clyde Fowler, all the way from Guyana, presenting today about the Kwanzaa, and also thanking you all to be part of this great movement and encouraging you to grab a copy of the incoming Global GreenBook, which is going to highlight Black-friendly places globally. And also thank you for the support. You're the ones who contributed for this GreenBook. And also I would like to give this opportunity to our sister Yvonne Bushume to let us know what are we going to look out for in the upcoming GreenBook, and also an estimate of time on when it's going to be launched. I know at the moment it's been copyrighted, and we're waiting for the dates. So Yvonne, can you give us updates on when the GreenBook is going to be launched, and also what to look out for in the GreenBook as well?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are. So the GreenBook will be launched next week. I think it will be available on Amazon. Yeah, and what we included in this GreenBook, there are like safe places around the world as usual, and also the healthcare section where they will like let you know how you can treat yourself, stress release, and also there is we also highlighted when I Love Black People was rescuing Black students in Ukraine. And also there are a list of African universities, and a list of historical Black universities. There are many more, but it's really interesting. You can join the wait list. I'm going to share the link in the chat section. That since once we launch the app, you'll be notified and grab your copy. So thank you very much. If you have any question regarding the Global GreenBook 2022, you can just type it in the comment section, then I'll be able to join you and also respond to your question.
All right, thank you so much, Yvonne, for the quick updates on what to look out for in the upcoming GreenBook. You can grab the GreenBook through Amazon, as she said, and also you can also sign up for the upcoming GreenBook waiting list, so that when it's launched, you'll be the first to know about the GreenBook, that it has been launched. So the waiting list link is going also to be shared in the chat room. And those who are on Facebook, we are going to share the waiting list through the chat section, the comment section as well. I appreciate our Facebook family who are joining us through the Facebook and network challenges. Also, we are recording this call. We make sure that it will reach out to you and you have a chance to listen to the speakers who presented first. If you joined earlier, I thank you again for joining again at this time of the year. Some of you are in the morning, afternoon, and evening, depending on the part of the world you are in. So that's it for this year. And also, I would like to acknowledge you that through the upcoming year in January, we are going to unveil our plans for the 2023, and also as our COVID restrictions are being reduced, hopefully our usual country meetups where you are going to meet our co-founders physically in your nation and have a discussion will be also resumed. And as the Pan-African president is also here in Zimbabwe, the elected current Pan-African president is based in Zimbabwe, is leader of chiefs. So also this upcoming year, we also make sure that we have him to speak on this platform as well. That's what to look out for the upcoming year. And again, the ambassador program is going to resume with full force in the upcoming 2023. And this time around, we make sure that those ambassadors who had joined us previously, like back in 2020, are going to benefit from the movement as well, as they are going to arrange the safe places around the major big cities in their countries. So a great way to look out for in the upcoming year. And also our application is going to be better in full force again in the year 2023. Developers right now working tirelessly day and night, adding more features and enhancing the application that it will be user-friendly, and everyone will enjoy using the application, as well as we're going to add more features which you all requested to be on the application, the Alaf Safe Places app. Make sure you have the application so that when the updates come, you'll be notified, and also you receive notification about that through the application. Dr. Tyrone Wright. Dr. Tyrone Wright teaches at the City of New York University. For those who are joining us for the first time, teaching is at the City of New York University, one of the prestigious universities in the United States. So it's a blessing. It's a pleasure to have to teach us about the Pan-African history. And as well, if you join earlier, you have a chance to listen to our I Love Black People radio episode, which is being aired on Sirius XM channel 151, and it will be aired on Thursday, Tuesday, and Sundays. So if you miss it on Tuesday, on Thursday, you can catch it on Tuesday, and also on Sundays. And all the episodes and our previous episodes are available on iloveblackpeople.com website. If you haven't visited the website yet, kindly go there, and you see more work which has been done by I Love Black People and you members and ambassadors. And again, if you haven't grabbed your certificates as you completed the Pan-African history courses and you need a certificate for that, kindly visit our website, and also we're going to share links for you to pay for the certificate. If you pay for the certificate, all the money you use is going to be used in order for this movement to go forward. So the certificates cost only $15. It's a once payment certificate, and all the methods of payment are there. PayPal, Visa, and also Gold Remit, MoneyGram, and advise if you have any methods which you would like, depending on where you are again. So this and those who have already have the certificate also on our website, if you go there and check out your name and see that your name is not there, it means you don't have a certificate of the Pan-African history course which you have joined and which you attended online on Zoom and on Facebook. So you need to have that certificate. You can also, the good thing about this certificate is that they're verified. You can also use it when you are applying, and also when you want to join certain organizations, certain posts which require knowledge about Pan-African or history, even culture. You can use that certificate. It will be for your own group. But attending these Zoom meetings and also live on Facebook is for free. Anyone, family member, friends, you can invite them to join us, and for free. But when they need a certificate, that's when they pay. So it's a great privilege to join this meeting for free and learn about the Pan-African history. I'm not so sure if Nana Kuam, what time is she going to join today, or if she's not available.
She's going to join in 2 minutes.
Yes, Yvonne?
Yes, she's going to join us in 2 minutes.
Sorry?
She's going to join us in 2 minutes.
She's joining now.
No, in 2 minutes. She'll be on the call.
All right. Yeah, so Nana Kwa is going to join in 2 minutes and start teaching us about the year-end sect of the GreenBook of the healthcare, and she's one of the authors of this upcoming global GreenBook as well. So look out for it and check out the authors of the GreenBook. One is our co-founder, Cynthia Skinner, is going also to be the author of the GreenBook, and Nana Kwa through the healthcare section, which is going to be included in the GreenBook as well. So we look forward for you purchasing the GreenBook in support of the I Love Black People on Amazon, and your purchase will contribute to the movement for it to move forward. Yeah. So Nana Kwa is just joined us. She's just preparing to settle down and to arrange PDF so that she's going to share some PDF. Make sure that you turn on your camera so that you can receive a shout out. Nana Kwa loves teaching the healthcare section. Whilst she sees the happy faces of Black people around the globe learning about the healthcare. So you can turn on your cameras and make sure that you follow up with the lecture. And at the end of the lecture and during the lecture, you can also ask questions through the chat room. And I'm also going to share your email address in case you would like to have PDF for your own benefit so that she can send you through email. So welcome Nana Kwa to the last session of your lecture for 2022 edition.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am trying to pull up the lesson packet. If you all will give me one moment, we'll see what we can do. Let me see who got their cameras on. Okay. Hey, I see some new faces. Go ahead. All right. Okay, I see Clyde. I'm gonna figure out how to put this background. Y'all be putting these backgrounds, and he got the GreenBook. Okay. And he got Kuumba. Yes, Abaragani, everybody. So listen, if you don't know the answer, Clyde got it on his screen. It is Kuumba, creativity. Okello and Sickwind, John and Jimmy and Marvel, Fala. I hope I'm not butchering your names. Osman, Gwen, who else did I miss? I think that's everybody. I know this second page never has anybody. Oh, we don't even have a second page, do we? We only have enough people for one page, huh? That's okay. I'm glad you all are here. People getting ready to party. I'm actually cooking today because I am getting ready for the caramel feast for tomorrow. The last day of Kwanzaa is the caramel feast, so I'm cooking some good food. Anybody on here from Senegal? Any Senegalese people on? I'm gonna try my hand at some yassa chicken. I've made it a few times in the past. Of course, my daughter just told me she's gonna make the jollof rice. So we'll see how that goes. I know several people make jollof rice and everybody competes on who's the best, but ours is gonna be the best, maybe. I'm used to a rice cooker, so no, it won't be the best because, yeah. She's not using the rice cooker. She just informed me she's not using the rice cooker. That's why she's making it and I'm not making it. You can't make jollof rice in a rice cooker, but I know that's why she's doing it. But anyway, happy Kwanzaa, everybody. Happy Saturday. Thanks for joining us on the call. Thanks for turning your cameras on. And if I can pull up the lesson, let's see what, I'm sure I got everything pulled up except for that. Let me see if I can pull up today's lesson. So last week, if you joined us, we talked about stress, how to manage stress, how to release stress. And of course, without knowing what stress is, we can't effectively address that. So we, of course, talked about some of the common symptoms and that sort of thing. Oh, goodness, it's still not here. Okay, I had it down packed as to how to pull it up, and it's not working there. It's not working. Okay. Well, y'all know what I say when that happens, right? So I can see your beautiful Black faces. You will just have to see mine because we're not going to show the handouts. So we spoke about how stress affects the body and different ways in which to do it. I think I'd like to speak a little bit about how to use some of the stress management tools like breathing exercises, conscious breathing. Thank God we don't have to think about breathing, right? It's one of those yet voluntary and involuntary actions in the body. And we know that it's necessary for life, but we know that it is vital for stress release when we do what we call conscious breathing. And so there are a number of breathing exercises. I mean, there are books written on it. And in the packet, and if you need that, you can certainly email me and I can send you the packet. But in the packet, I give a number of different breathing exercises that you can use. But let's just talk a little bit about deep breathing. Most people are familiar with right, your basic deep breathing exercises, right? Even though we have many more. We have right, we have alternate breathing. There's so many different types of breath work. But let's talk a little bit about the benefits of deep breathing exercises. We know that it detoxifies and releases toxins. We know that it releases tension, relaxes the mind, body, and brings clarity. We know that it can relieve pain, right? Have you ever been in pain and breathed through the pain, right? Childbirth, injuries, any number of things, accidents, a number of things where there's pain and we take deep breaths, or when we're angry, right? We take deep breaths. So there are many times that deep breathing can help relieve pain. We know that it also strengthens the immune system. It improves quality of the blood. It strengthens the lungs, and it improves cellular regeneration and can elevate mood, right? And I'm sure this is just a small list, but we know that deep breathing can have a lot of benefits on the body. We know that 70% of toxins are released simply by breathing properly. If you aren't breathing properly, the toxins do not get released. We know that with it relieving tension, when you are afraid, stressed, or nervous, your breathing patterns change. Breathe slowly, purposefully, and deeply to feel relaxed. In regards to it easing pain, we know that breathing in deeply, holding your breath, and then visualizing that pain leaving your body as you breathe out can be of benefit in that. In terms of it elevating your mood, we know that breathing increases pleasure-inducing chemicals in your body. We know that improving the blood circulation, as we mentioned, The deep breathing releases carbon dioxide and increases oxygen supply, improving the quality of your blood. And in terms of emotional distress, we know that it clears out negative or confused feelings with each cleansing deep breath, right? So we know the benefits of breathing, and we know that in our daily lives, as we've tried it or used it, we know that it can be helpful. I usually like doing fire breaths, right? I think that's a pretty easy one for us to maybe do here together. What y'all think? Y'all ready? Now we know that there are a couple of ways to do fire breaths. One is breathing in the nose and out the nose. And then we know there's one where you inhale through the nose and release out of the mouth. Right? And so I'd like us to do a couple of sets of those. Y'all ready? Y'all got your cameras on for good reason, right? And even those who I see just little black boxes, I hope you will join us too, right? We'll just have to take your word for it. But y'all gonna participate with me? Can I get some head nods? Listen, this is the benefit of the camera on now. We ready to do some breathing exercises? One head nod maybe. Okay, well, let's try it anyway. Y'all gonna just watch me do it. So it's probably gonna be better for you if you participate. If not, I can do it myself. Zanzele means she will do it herself or she will stand alone. So you know she can do it, but I want you to learn it too. So we're gonna do the fire breaths where we are inhaling and exhaling out of the nose, okay? Queen Afua references this in one of her books, or maybe several of her books, but this is probably one of the more popular ways. Now there's another book called The Energy Healing Fast. No, The Energy Fast, 3-Day Energy Fast, I think is, where they do the other one. You can do more breaths quickly with the in and out of the nose. However, both are very serious because if you do too many all at once with kind of not respecting the power of breath, it can, of course, make you a little lightheaded, right? So you have to be prepared. So it's always best to support yourself in a seat. If you are in a chair, back aligned with the back of the chair. If you are on the floor, laying flat with your knees up would be best so that your back is flat against the floor. Wall to be upright against the wall. Or other position that you can be as upright as possible. You're not laying down, right? So maybe those that are not on camera are laying. So just try to have your torso as flat and that breath, those breathing passages as kind of open and unrestricted as possible, okay? So we're gonna try this. Y'all ready? And I always like to say red, black, and green. Green is go. And that's replacing our 1, 2, 3, right? And then we're gonna start breathing and we're gonna do 10 sets or 10 repetitions for the first set. Okay, you ready? Red, black, green. And stop. And I want you to be really still and just stay in place. And as you resume normal breathing, you are probably feeling all of the oxygen twirling around in your bodies right now. I always close my eyes with different things like this, so I'm gonna stay in this moment because that's how I like to experience it. But you should feel in your bodies that increase in circulation, that oxygen flowing. You may feel some tingling. You may feel a little lightheaded, like you can't move, or you may have a heavy feeling. So there may be a number of different, okay, hey, I got thumbs up. So if you can relate to anything that I'm saying, just sort of be really still, stay in place, and just resume your kind of regular paced breathing. And if you can imagine, if you do this sort of on a regular basis, if it's every night, wonderful. If it's once or twice a week, if it's when you're feeling stressed, but I think that this can be really helpful for you. And not even just if you are stressed, it could also be if you're having trouble sleeping. It could be if you've just had a stressful day and you need to kind of do something with some excess energy. Some people who are anxious and, you know, have a lot going on. Some people have a, what they call it, racing mind, where you kind of get some trouble kind of settling down. This can be a good way to kind of channel that energy, that anxiety, that excess energy, so that you can kind of relax. So, how we feeling? Good, thank you. So, let's try the in the nose, out the mouth. Okay. So, oh, and another thing this is really good for, I used to teach this in a drug treatment program. I used to work as a drug counselor. And of course, they thought I was crazy because it was not part of your regular substance abuse or detox kind of training. But the point was to provide tools to kind of manage stress. And that could be the stress of withdrawal or detoxing. And because a lot of people who were there would replace whatever drug usage with smoking tobacco, smoking, a lot of them had developed, and for whatever their drug of choice might be as well, but had developed really severe respiratory issues or excess mucus in the body. So it can be really, really helpful even, and that's just one example, but even people who eat a lot of dairy, eat a lot of meat, or for whatever reasons you have excess mucus or phlegm in the body, this can also really help to break that up. So what we would find during those classes is that a lot of people would have to expel, right, all of this phlegm that was in, you know, the lungs and in the bronchial passages. So it can be used for relaxing, but it has some other physiological benefits as well, right? So I think it can be a useful tool for a number of issues. So we're going to inhale through the mouth and out. Inhale through the nose and out through the mouth. We're ready? Red, black, green. And again, we're going to be as still as possible. Resume our normal breathing. And allow ourselves to enjoy the sensations going on in our bodies. How do we feel? Did we do this one? And do you have a difference between how you feel about the first one and the second one? I would like you to indulge me and give me a comment in the chat. I'm very interested to know. Either way, whichever one resonates with you, feel free to implement this. Do this on a regular basis. And if this is even too much, you can always just do your regular slow, deep breaths. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4. You can really just do sort of slow, deep breathing as well. Doesn't have to be, you know, the fire breaths. Okay, so that's about breathing. The other thing that we usually talk about in this section is, okay, yeah, I also prefer the second one. Thank you, Jacqueline. I appreciate the feedback. That's also my favorite one. I just feel like I can do more with my energy. I can kind of direct it. I feel more controlled, empowered, I don't know, by the inhaling in the nose and exhaling out the mouth. More sensation in the second one. All right, thank you, Sister Denise. I appreciate y'all's feedback. So yeah, but use these, harness that power in with breath. Breath is very empowering. Breathing is very empowering and can be life-changing. It can really help improve your day. I have been in so many situations where I've had to breathe through situations, and I've birthed 2 babies naturally at home, and breathing was a big part of that, right? And so, and I'm also a trained hypnotherapist. And, breath work is vital for so many different things. So let's move on to touch therapies. We know that there are also ways of relieving stress with different types of healing touch. So it can be very healing and very therapeutic to have the healing power of touch. It can be shiatsu massage, it can be Swedish massage, it can be deep tissue massage, it can be reflexology. Usually one of the charts that I show is reflexology. There is a therapeutic foot massage which stimulates the different parts of the feet that correspond to the entire body. And so if it's the toes that, correspond, or the big toe, especially the head, or if the top of each toe is correspondent to the sinuses, or the base of the toe, it can be the instep that corresponds to the spine, and the heel that corresponds to the intestines. Middle of the foot is what we call the solar plexus. So a lot of times when you're feeling stressed, you can touch sort of that middle part of the palm and the middle part of the feet, or the sole of the feet as well. Even while doing your breathing exercises, this is something you can combine, right? And all of these things can help the body relax. It can help relieve different parts of the body specifically, but overall just bring relaxation, relief to the body. So touch therapy can be very, very helpful. If you ever want to, for this new year, if you want to make your goal, which I highly recommend, to put some time into some self-care and self-healing rituals, I highly recommend it. You have to take care of yourself. Getting a massage, some kind of touch therapy, or even if people touching you is not your thing, doing some kind of meditative movement like Tai Chi or Qigong, yoga, meditative movement where there's a combination of breathing and movement of the body, right? Which will also improve the physical body by increasing flexibility, your strength, your endurance, things of that nature. All of these can be very, very helpful. But enroll in a class, for doing some kind of meditative movement or getting some kind of touch therapy. These things can be very, very healing to you. So I highly recommend them. The last thing I want to mention, if I can get my hands on, yes, my remedies. So in addition to relieving stress and doing exercises, breath work, touch therapies, meditative work, and I should also probably mention here, you can also get acupuncture that helps relieve stress and pain, or getting chiropractic care, right? Which can also help relieve stress or tension that's in the body. These are all options. But lastly, and I don't want to undermine it all, our emotions. How we are feeling is very key to relieving stress. Sometimes there are situational circumstances that kind of rule or dictate our feelings, our emotions, but sometimes there's some kind of chemical imbalances, environmental changes, certain circumstances that have us feeling however we feel. I want you to know that there are natural remedies to help balance our emotions. I often say that one of the most frequently asked questions is, how are you, or how you feeling, right? Or how is it, right? One of the few words I know in Tree, et saying, how is it? Or who to saying, how are you, or whatever. Any variation, right, of how you're doing is probably the most frequently asked question. And of course, the response is probably the most frequent lie that people tell. Right? Most of us are not honest about how we're really feeling. And sometimes it's because we don't trust the person that's asking for us to give an honest, authentic answer, but sometimes it's because we don't know. And so I encourage you to know, really get a grasp of how you're feeling and how you're doing, right? And then knowing that there is a way in which to balance that, to address those feelings, right? So flower essences, right? Flower remedies, flower essences, these are natural remedies that help balance the emotions. It could be despair, it could be loneliness, it could be anger, it could be resentment, it could be mental exhaustion, it could be grief, it could be feeling overwhelmed. It could be any range of emotions, right? And these flowering parts of trees and shrubs, they have been extracted from these plants and put into liquid extracts. And they allow us to have, you know, some emotional relief or release, right? Depending on how you look at it, to help just bring us back into balance. Right? So there are what we call English flower essences, and then there are Australian flower essences that have been studied and kind of documented. It's not to say that other parts of the world does not have these types of emotional healing remedies, but these are the ones that we usually have texts for, and we have studied and know what exactly they do. So in the English remedies, there are 38. In the Australian, there are 42. I want to highlight a couple of the English flower essences. And if you're familiar, there's the doctor who I guess made it famous. So a lot of the brands are referred to as Bach or Dr. Edward Bach flower remedies. But of course, we know he didn't create them. We know God created them. So I don't often say the Bach flower remedies. That's a brand. So that's marketing. But if you are going and looking for flower essences or flower remedies, that will get you in the right place, because nowadays there are other brands that are available for that. It's sort of like Bragg's, right? Bragg's is a brand, but when most people think of apple cider vinegar, right? They're thinking of Bragg's. Well, that's just a brand. There are many other brands that sell apple cider vinegar. So that's just one example of that. So let me, in these couple of minutes, there are several flower remedies that are excellent for balancing the emotions. If you are feeling mentally exhausted, overwhelmed, hornbeam, olive, oat, these are remedies that are excellent for you. If you are going through some changes, divorce, moving, new job, a breakup, whatever, walnut is excellent for people who are going through changes and transition. If you are resentful, right? Somebody has wronged you, you've had a bad experience and you can't get over it, willow is excellent for that. If you have lost someone, if you've been sick, if someone's been sick around you, if you're in deep-seated grieving process or in sorrow, gorse is excellent for you. And there are many, many others. If you have had a traumatic incident, an accident, bad news, what have you, Star of Bethlehem is an excellent flower remedy. And so these are just some examples of some situations where we may need to use flower essences to balance our emotions. And there are many others. There's even a self-test where you can answer like 115 questions. It's a lot, but that can help you figure out which flower remedies are good for you. If you know that you don't always kind of feel happy. And if anything we should be doing, that is chasing joy. If we are not living our lives to the fullest with our jobs or in our relationships or whatever it may be, within yourself, always seek and chase joy. And these flower remedies are excellent for helping to do that. It will balance out whatever negative emotions that you may have and bring you to a place of happiness and joy. And I think that's what we all should be trying to do. It might be a little presumptuous of me to assume what we should all be doing, but I encourage you to be happy, to be joyful, right? And to not only be surviving, but thriving. And I think flower essences are a wonderful way of doing that. So I think I am out of time, and I appreciate you listening. I appreciate those of you who kept your cameras on, and even those who didn't have the cameras on but wrote me a note. I'm going to also take a few minutes and go back through these in case there are some chats that I didn't get to see as I was quickly kind of scanning over there. But thank you for joining. And I'm assuming award. Yes, I see Dr. right now. So yes, so I was just going to make sure. But yes, so thanks for joining. I'll see you next week. And as always, I bid you good health and peace and Happy New Year, I guess, if we're using this Gregorian calendar, right?
Yes,
so
thank you. Thank
right.
you so much, Nana Akua, for having us till the last day of 2022, teaching us about the healthcare lecture. We really do appreciate you. We learned a lot throughout the year and the past years as well. We are growing in terms of learning about herbs, natural, holistic, and also stress relief. We are now managing ourselves. We appreciate that. And also for everyone joining this meeting till the last day of 2022, we appreciate you again. So stay tuned for the Pan-African History and Organizing class with Dr. Taryn Wright, and also I look forward for the upcoming GreenBook for the 2022 edition to be launched soon as well. Yes, I welcome Dr. Taryn Wright for the last day of 2022 Pan-African History and Organizing lecture. Yes, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, okay. I was trying to unmute myself. Okay, so today you guys won't see me. I'm trying to get my picture right though, so you at least have a picture of me there. And it's no problem because what I'm going to be focused on today, I want to just go right to, can I have permission to share? It says only hosts can share. I want to share my screen. Oh Lord, can I share my screen?
Yes, Yvonne, can you?
Yeah, okay. No, it says only the host can share in this meeting every time I click on it.
All right, and now you are able to share now.
Okay, perfect. All right, so what I'm going to be sharing with you all today is the document that we covered, but in addition to that, I wanted to make sure that you all got a taste of who DuBois was, because very often when I teach this, I don't give you a taste of who DuBois was. It's more than important than seeing me. I'm going to let you, for those of you who haven't connected the name with the face, I'm going to let you see who he is for a moment and hear his words with regard to Africa and Africa's independence struggle and how he comes to organize this very important event that is known as the Pan-African Congresses. So let me share. I'm actually on my phone, so even though I have several computers, I always like to use my phone because it allows me to move around. And today I'm moving around, traveling. But let me say this before I get started. Today is the second to last day, or you can say the 6th day of Kwanzaa. Those of you who are in East Africa, you already know Swahili. So we say Habari Gani, right? What's the news, or what's up? How you doing? And today is Kuumba, creativity. So I'm being a little creative today. You guys usually get a chance to see me, but I'm moving you around visually on this occasion. I'm annoyed that my little picture is not showing up there, but okay, I'll figure that out at a later date. This is on DuBois speaking specifically on Pan-Africanism. And if you remember, hold on one second. If you remember, we had a document that you, well, I'll come back to it, but we had a document. Actually, I'll get it right from your group. So you guys see in your group, you had a document which was the Pan-African Congresses, the first and the last. So if you guys remember in your group, remember the two documents here? Okay, so the Pan-African Congress resolutions, okay? So this right here is exactly what Du Bois is going to be speaking about in this short, brief visual and audio that I'm going to share with you. It's talking about how he put this together. And if you remember this moment in our course, we're looking at the rise of organizational bodies. We did Du Bois and Garvey, and both would initiate organizational bodies that would advance Pan-Africanism largely on the international scale. Okay, Garvey with the UNIA through the Negro World, Du Bois with the Pan-African Congresses, okay, which are continuous. And I'm going to leave it there because he's going to say all that needs to be said about that. So I'm going to share this.
I got the idea that here was a chance to do something for Africa.
Let's make sure you
I wrote
can hear
President
it.
Wilson
Okay, let me take it back. Okay. Award, can you just let me know if everybody can hear this?
And I got the idea that here was a chance to do something for Africa.
Okay.
I wrote to President Wilson and told him that at the peace conference in Versailles, they ought to take up the matter of the German colonies. And since the Allies now
for those
are
of you
in
who don't
charge,
know,
that
this
they
is
ought
what
to
it
set
looks like.
those colonies up as free, independent states and put them under an international committee on which Africans should be members. Mr. Wilson didn't answer that letter, but the American committee over there considered it, and out of that really came the Mandates Commission.
As you can see.
On the other hand, when I got to Paris, I tried to organize a Pan-African Congress. There had been a Pan-African conference in 1900, which I had attended and wrote the resolutions, but that had died. When I tried to organize this Pan-African Congress, I was told that Paris was under martial law and that we couldn't have anything of that sort. The Americans discouraged it. But I went to the black man who was instrumental in bringing something like 100,000 black soldiers from Africa to help in the First World War and really turn back the Germans. And Diagne went to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister said I could have the Congress. But of course the America and Great Britain and so forth wouldn't allow anybody to have passports to get over there. So the Congress was rather small. We had 57 delegates, people, Negroes who happened to be in Paris at the time, a few Africans, a few Negro Americans, and some whites. We had this first Pan-African Congress in 1919 at the Grand Hotel. And then after the World War, in 1921, we held a much larger Congress with some 200 or 300 people and a good many from Africa.
And that's important to remember because I'm going to show you one more individual, which is going to be Kwame Ture Stokely Carmichael, who's speaking specifically on the issue of Pan-Africanism. But you hear what Du Bois says. He says that the first Pan-African Congress held in Paris was sort of, curtailed to a degree because people couldn't get passports to get there, and visas to get there. But that the second one would be more progressive in terms of the outcome, in terms of the numbers of people that would be able to come from Africa and from around the world. That's important to understand, because what's significant about what DuBois does with initiating the Pan-African Congresses is that they are a continuous body. And ultimately, it builds up to that last Congress that you see in the document that I gave you, where there is the Manchester Congress, okay, where African leadership in this organizational body of the Congresses assert that total independence and liberation of the continent was not just inevitable, but was something they were committed to making happen, okay? And so sometimes when things are starting, they start small, like us, right? We all start small and in the cover of darkness, right? This is how we all come into existence as human beings, right? And then it grows. So it's important to note that, right? That things grow, especially organizational bodies. So it's not always as big as we want to be initially, but it grows. And this idea of Pan-Africanism grows. I'm going to talk a little more in between this and then share with you Kwame Ture's position for about 10 minutes on Pan-Africanism as a movement and how it moves over time and what it means initially, as well as it moves from the diaspora to the continent and spreads around the world.
And that aroused the colonial powers. They got very much excited because they thought I was trying to start revolution in Africa, which I wasn't at all. What I was trying to do was to get educated Africans in various parts of the world to come together and know each other and talk with each other and see what kind of program could be laid down for the future emancipation of the Africans in their own country. I was held several Pan-African Congresses after that. There were none that were as great and comprehensive as the second in 1921, but there was one in 1923 in which leading Englishmen took part. That took place in London. And in 1924, I think, in Lisbon, where we got members of the Portuguese Parliament and some of the colonial...
Sorry. I'm telling you about the formation of the Congresses, but this is what I want to go to. So he's telling you about the initial Congress, and I should have stopped it there because there's another video that follows this up, but I'll stop it there. So you got a visual of DuBois. Now, let me just be clear about DuBois. DuBois is not seen as just some radical figure in the history of Pan-Africanism, but what is he seen as? He's seen as a steady figure and an early progenitor of Pan-Africanism as a concept, as a movement, as a force behind the Congresses. Now, he said something very important there. He wasn't trying to, start a revolution. I don't know if that was that word he said, but he was trying to intentionally get African people to come together and talk about the problems they were facing and how they could agree, how they could move towards emancipation. Now, out here in the Western Hemisphere, when you talk about emancipating people, that does not equate to any form of nationalism per se, because out in the diaspora, overwhelmingly in places like the big colonial strongholds like the United States or imperial strongholds like the United States or Canada and other places like that, or even, South America, coming together does not necessarily mean seizing the territory because of the numbers, right? Particularly when we talk about the United States. Black people coming together in the United States, even if every Black person came together, it would be only 15% of the total population. And it really overwhelmingly would not be the footing for any revolution in terms of taking over the nation. And that doesn't mean, that's not to take anything away from what has happened in the United States. It just means that we know 15% of the population cannot wage a nationalist struggle for the nation. Okay. However, on the African continent, when we start talking about in the colonial period, people coming together to emancipate themselves from imperialist oppression and colonization, that's very different. That is a very different message. It reads different because on the African continent, African people, I'm going to say it differently, Black African people, somebody wants to call me, Black African people are in the majority, okay? And so can everybody still hear me? Because that call tried to interrupt me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So on the African continent, it plays very different, right? So what he is saying, he's saying it very passively, but it's still quite profound. So I don't want to go over too much, and I want to give like 5 minutes of conversation to what I'm showing you today. Side note, I'll be posting a film, Cuba and African Odyssey, in the group shortly after this, because then we're going to look at how African liberation struggles manifest on the continent and the politics around it all. Okay. And our entry point for that would be Cuba, going into Africa and supporting various African nations like South Africa, Angola, the Congo, Guinea-Bissau, and a few others. Okay. So this is Kwame Ture, and he's going to talk about Pan-Africanism as a movement and the future. Kwame Ture, originally born as Stokely Carmichael, was a major figure in SNCC and the civil rights movement. A lot of people don't know that. They gawk at this idea that the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement have a direct connection. Absolutely, they do. Many of the individuals who are very much involved in the civil rights movement, but did not subscribe to this nonviolent thing, but did subscribe to the organizing of African people, participated in the civil rights movement, and then would move on to more radical organizational expressions. Okay. I've had, some people who have, I've been in conversation with, and they really need to be taught the information as opposed to being in dialogue so much. But that's a big misconception, that there are no major, that the Black Power movement is the antithesis of the civil rights movement. No, some of the figures are the same people, right? But they're on this progressive trajectory to expressing their demands, and are not fundamentally non-violent and don't have an aversion. Sure, they're not initiating violence, but they definitely believe in self-defense, so on and so forth. So Kwame Ture would go on from SNCC and the civil rights movement. And side note, he is one of the people who did some of the most organizing anyone could do in the civil rights movement to have Black people vote, even though he knew voting was not going to be the way. But he understood the importance of organization, organizing one's people. Okay. And then you can get them to do other things under that organized formation. Okay. So he is, at one time attended Howard, but I don't even know if he graduated from Howard University, but he goes on to be a member of the Black Panther Party for a hot minute, and then begins a political organization called the All African People Revolutionary Party. I'm skipping around and just giving you like small highlights because his life was dynamic. There's a whole exhibit for him right now down in Texas, and I might share the information for those of you who are actually in Texas. But extraordinary life. He started the All African People Revolutionary Party, which was, philosophically girded and undergirded by Nkrumah's Touréism, the philosophies of Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Touré. And so, and I was actually a member of that organization. That being said, that organization in particular would express a form of Pan-Africanism as promoted by Nkrumah, that the unification of African people or the unification of Africa under scientific socialism. Okay. Now let's go back a little bit. Garvey is talking about the unification of African people, and his tool is organization. So is DuBois, the unification of African people. And the tool to achieve this is also organization, organized bodies, but exported to the continent, right? The Pan-African Congresses. Booker T. Washington actually has a form of Pan-Africanism. His Pan-Africanism is the unification of African people, when the tool is independence through industry. Industry, owning and operating of industry, is the tool through which African people can first take liberation, and primarily economic liberation, which allowed them to not be exploited, right? And then the bare bones definition of Pan-Africanism is, before all of these proponents emerge in the way that they do, the bare bones definition of Pan-Africanism in 1900 is the unification of African people for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation. Okay, so here is Kwame Touré speaking about the processes and the movement that is Pan-Africanism, that is born out of, the diaspora, but certainly reaches its highest expression on the continent of Africa through, liberation movements and the desire to unify. And we do get an organizational body, which is the Organization of African Unity. And I'll be covering that going forward. So here's Kwame Touré.
Europe everywhere speaks of Europe everywhere speaks of European continental unity, even though Europe has fought more fratricidal wars than any other.
Let me pause that. Fratricide means father against son, son against father. Fratricidal wars means basically infighting, right? So he's saying Europe has fought more fratricidal wars, internal fighting each other, than any other group of people, really.
Europe still speaks of European continental unity. Of course, Africa will unify before Europe, but that's not the point of discussion here this evening. The fact that Europe, with all the fratricidal wars she has fought, can speak of continental unity shows this evolutionary process. Africa, like any other society anywhere in the world, was involved in this same evolutionary process, going from family to tribe to clan to nation to continent. This evolutionary process was interrupted by European imperialism. It came in two forms, slavery and colonialism. First, they took over 300 million, the strongest, out of Africa, and then they divided Africa at the Berlin Conference. So you can see that Africa herself was moving on this evolutionary process. This evolutionary process, which would lead to continental unity, and Africa will still be the first continent unified, was interrupted by European capitalism. Since it was interrupted by European capitalism and evolutionary process, the only way that Africa can unite today is through a revolutionary process aiming at a socialist economy. If capitalism destroyed us, it doesn't make sense to use capitalism to continue with it. We must use the antithesis of capitalism, which of course is socialism. And certainly if an evolutionary process has been interrupted, the only way we can capture the time lost is through a revolutionary process. We state these facts only to let you know that those of us who are revolutionary, Pan-Africanists, is not because we love revolution. It is historically determined, and we have no alternative but to follow history and to use history for the benefit of our people. So this then is the general outlines of Pan-Africanism. So you must not think that Africanism just began. Had Africa been left untrampled by European imperialism, we would have a long time achieved continental unity. Secondly, Pan-Africanism must be seen as a movement, a mass movement. And this mass movement must be properly understood. Africa, of course, because of racism, is belittled everywhere. And many people do not see Africa's constant, underline the word constant, contributions to world civilization. Since the 1940s, Africa has given, even before the 1940s, actually, we can go back to the Honorable Marcus Garvey, Africa has given to world political movements a mass character. Africans revolt in masses, never as a vanguard party. If you look at the independence struggle in Africa, it was nothing less than mass. If you look at the struggle in the Caribbean for independence, it was nothing less than mass. And even in the United States of America, the only movement they call a mass movement is our movement. Therefore, this mass character must be properly understood. Pan-Africanism has this mass character. Africans have this mass character in responding. And our responsibility is to bring this mass character together, make it precise so that it can direct its blows at the enemy, hitting him until we knock him down. Therefore, the task of Pan-Africanism is to gather the masses of our people together in the same organization, irrespective of where they find themselves, be it in Europe, be it in the United States, be it in the Caribbean, or be it in Africa. This is the first aspect, then we must understand. Pan-Africanism found its organizational expressions in 1900. Here, a Pan-African conference, here the word conference, was organized by Africans from all over the world. They came together deciding that something must be done for Africa. One of the leading organizers of this conference was a man by the name of Henry Sylvester Williams, born in Trinidad, a man whom you should do some history on, a very, very great man. Dr. W.E.B. DuBois attended the conference, but he was not one of the leaders in 1900. By 1917, 1918, the idea of a necessity for a Pan-African Congress, not conference, Congress, was to be called. But most of the people who did the conference were dead. Henry Sylvester Williams was dead. A lot of them were dead. DuBois was about the only one who was alive. DuBois recognized he had a historic responsibility to continue the work of Pan-Africanism, so he called the first Pan-African Congress. Make a clear distinction. The first one in 1900 was a conference. DuBois, being intelligent, understanding that a conference is limited and a Congress has more elasticity and can go longer, called it a Pan-African Congress. From the 1990s up until 1945, we could say seriously, Dr. W.E.B. DuBois just about single-handedly kept the flame of Pan-Africanism alive. One thing must also be underlined to you. Pan-Africanism was brought into being in its organized form by the Africans outside of Africa. This was done only because of the oppression of Africa. At that time, Africa was under total colonial domination. There could be no political meetings. As a matter of fact, if you had the paper of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, you could go to jail. So the conditions were such that it was difficult for Africans on the continent to organize. Recognizing this, came quickly to fill up that gap. So Pan-Africanism itself was brought to bear by the diaspora. But you must not think that the diaspora brought Pan-Africanism for the diaspora. Not at all. The center of the discussions has always been Africa. This must be properly understood. Some people try to shift it, take it somewhere else, but Africa has always been the focus. DuBois carried on his congresses up until the 5th Congress in 1945. Because of time, we're just going through them quickly. In 1945, saw the 5th Pan-African Congress. Here, you had Africans born on the continent, in the Caribbean, and Africans, of course, born in Europe and the United States. At this 5th Pan-African Congress, there were 3 co-secretaries, of course, W.E.B. DuBois, George Padmore of Trinidad, and Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. So he had an African from the Caribbean, one from the United States, and one from the continent, who were co-secretaries of the Fifth Pan-African Congress. The Fifth Pan-African Congress was crucial for us. A decision was made there. They said that the final confrontation with colonialism is coming. After all, this is 1945, and you must know that there's negative and positives in everything. I remember once as a young man reading Mein Kampf on an airplane sitting next to a woman. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean what I'm doing? I'm reading Mein Kampf." "Why are you reading it?" I said, "Well, Hitler is a very important man. He had historical effects on the world, you know." She said, "Well, I'm a Jew." I said, "Have you read it?" She said, "No." I said, "Oh, that's bad." I said, "Have you not read Sun Yat-sen?" She said, "No." I said, "He says the first law of war is to know the enemy. If I were a Jew, I would read everything there is to read on Hitler." Of course. Of course. So, while reading Hitler, she was arguing. I said, "Well, Hitler had some positive effect anyway." She said, "What positive effect did Hitler have?" I said, "Hitler weakened European imperialism. He weakened the British, he weakened the French, he weakened the Portuguese, he weakened the Belgians, and that's how we got independence." And these are facts of life. These are facts of life. When Hitler got through with Britain, when the Indians said they want independence, Britain could do anything but get out the way and let them have independence. Matter of fact, they got Mahatma Gandhi quick because they didn't want to deal with the armed struggle that the Indians were preparing for British imperialism in India. And by the time India was free, well, it was over. China came up. After China, of course, Africa throughout, et cetera, et cetera. And by 1960, in 15 short years of the declaration of the Fifth Pan-African Congress in 1945, 2/3 of the African continent was independent. You must understand clearly the importance of this. Now, at the Fifth Pan-African Congress, they said the only solution to the final confrontation is mass organization. And I say, if you look at Africans, we have nothing but mass character in our struggles. Of course, this mass character for the moment is spontaneous and must be transformed to something that is planned and permanent. But certainly the mass character is there. If you just look back to the Rodney King situation, those Africans who rebelled en masse. They had no planning. That's how backward they were. They didn't think about it. Just on the spot, they said, "Okay, it's too much. Let's go. Let's get them." And everybody said, "Okay, let's get them." And we rise up as mass and we get them. And then we sit down for 29 years. Of course. Of course. But the mass character is there, and we must understand this mass character. The Fifth Pan-African Congress, most of Africa, of course, was colonized. Kwame Nkrumah came to change all this. By 1958, he threw the British out of Cape Coast and named it Ghana. And Nkrumah declared before the entire world that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it's linked with the entire continent of Africa and its unification and liberty. And Ghana, Nkrumah made Ghana the base for every movement that fought against colonialism. Mugabe, who's now the head of Zimbabwe, where was he trained? In Ghana. Go and ask all of them. Nkrumah set up freedom schools, teaching how to use arms to go and fight. It was Nkrumah who built the base and pushed Pan-Africanism. He understood that Africa was divided in 1865 at the Berlin Conference, and that we cannot accept divisions imposed upon us by our enemy. Africa is one, we must unify her. This has been the task. Of course, since Nkrumah, the movement picked up. The independence of Guinea came in the same 1958, later that year, and with Sekou Touré and Kwame Nkrumah, the movement really coalesced force. The Pan-African movement, of course, was not going to be left alone. Imperialism would seek to divide it. That's their job. Sekou Touré says, if the enemy is not doing anything against you, that's because you're not doing anything. Of course. Matter of fact, when they're not doing anything against me, I get scared. What am I doing wrong? So their job was to divide, and if you will look, they divided the Pan-African movement in what was called the Casablanca bloc and the Monrovia bloc, the revolutionaries and the reactionaries, to put it in one simple word. Of course, the Casablanca group included the fighting forces in Algeria, the FLN, which the other African states refused to recognize. Of course, Nasser had to be in it. Of course, Nkrumah. Of course, Sekou Touré, Tunisia, and of course, Mohammed V in Morocco, who had just waged serious war to get independence away from the French. The other group was called the Moderate Group, and they were all made up of reactionaries and scum of our race who didn't want African unity, and there was a million problems and sabotaged it and worked for imperialism against the interests of their people, and that still continues today. I always say one of the weaknesses of the African Revolution is that we are the only people who allow our enemies to strut with impunity amongst us. It's only because of our weakness. It's only because of our weakness. Only because of our weakness.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there. Yeah. So, so in Kwame Ture breaks down the concept essentially of Pan-Africanism. He reiterates some of the history that we've already been covering. Okay. But as you know, Pan-Africanism has evolved and developed over time, right? So many different expressions, but with one core principle. All right, the unification of African people for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation. So I'm going to leave it there. The film I'm going to post in the group is Cuba African Odyssey, where we actually get to see some of those struggles and some contemporary questions like ethnicity and around Pan-Africanism, the issues we have with ethnicity. I will discuss next session. The issues that we have with regionalism and things of that nature. I get that the real goal of Pan-Africanism most of the time is not fighting, individuals and systems that are perpetuating white supremacy and culture. The unity itself is a struggle. And once we achieve the unity actually insulates and protects us, right? And I'm going to relate that when we meet next time to specifically what you're doing in this organization, right? So very often we think that our energy should be external, facing other people, confronting other people, when the work of unity, which is Pan-Africanism, that is to the benefit of African people, right? Not just unity for the sake of unity that is for the purpose of protecting us and insulating us from this common condition that we experience around the world. So very often the work is struggling with each other around the differences that have been created as a result of imperialism, colonialism, neo-colonialism, right? And yes, and even capitalism, because under capitalism, we have acquired titles that make us think that we're different from each other, even though we still have a common denominator called white supremacy and culture, racist, aka racism. Okay. So I'm gonna leave it there because I can go on and on and on. And listen, this is the first time that I've ever, thank you, what is it, Chandra Maria? Yes, listen, we don't like to talk about capitalism because some of us have a very parochial understanding of capitalism. We think capitalism is just free market, industry can compete. No, that's not simply what it was. It's more than that. And for any African person, Black African person in particular, we need to understand that at the foundation of the diaspora and even on the continent, the foundation of capitalism being expressed, we engage it. We are the commodities. We are the very entities that are bought and sold. We should never forget this. I have students who have been in my history classes or my political thought classes who want to advocate for capitalism. And I said, okay, let's be very clear. Your body, your very body would be bought and sold as a commodity in capitalism. So when we speak about capitalism, we have to always understand that we were the human fuel. We were the human coins that were bought and sold and traded and moved around and utilized in order for imperialist nations, colonial nations to enrich themselves. So we always have to be very careful. There is more to capitalism than just free market competing and the opportunity to have competing markets. It's more than that. It's not simply that. It's more than just competition in the marketplace. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. Revisit the 2 documents that I gave you last week if you haven't already. But then even more, You can watch the film that I'm going to post, Cuba and African Odyssey. And let me just give a disclaimer. I don't want to say we don't care about Cuba, because there's actually a nation, a Caribbean nation, that identifies Africa as a mother country, but we're not fixating on Cuba. We're looking at the very specific cases of Guinea-Bissau, of South Africa, of Angola, of the Congo, where Cuba plays a role, but where African people have decided as a result. This is sort of a product of this movement that we're talking about, right? This Pan-African movement. All of these African nations are moving at the same time. And yes, in some instances, lending support. Cuba is a nation that identifies with Africa and so lends support to fight off the cloak of imperialism. Okay. So we want to focus more on what's happening. And to that specific point, I will get into those specifics about the importance of African people taking the struggle into their own hands, and how quickly that happened. And it will never be praised unless we praise it, but it happened very quickly. Never in the history of the world did you have 17 countries in 2 years take their independence from their oppressors or colonial nations or imperialist nations in the way that Africa did, right? And it's only going to be spoken about if we speak about it. Okay. Yes, free enterprise is a big misconception. Especially, we should always be critical of it when we understand that we are the commodities, right? You can't praise it to the point to your own detriment. And we still now are very much the commodities, right? Because it is our labor still that has, that produces super profits for other people and not for us, right? Okay, so I'm looking here to see if people had questions or anything, but I just wanted to let you guys get a glimpse of who DuBois really was, just to know his face and connect the name with the face, with the voice, with the written work. And also, give you a blip of Kwame Ture in light of this understanding of Pan-Africanism, right? And the challenges that Pan-Africanism has had. Okay. All right. So good day. Zoe. Okay. Hello, Zoe. Thank you for joining us. Yes, thank you all for joining us on this Saturday, the eve before the first day of the new year. If you're on I saw Nana Kua say, yeah, so if you're on this, so Christianity has been imposed on the world. So to a large extent, so folks are on the Christian calendar. Other cultures have their New Year's at a different time of the year. But we observe Ghana. We observe Kwanzaa, and we observe Ghana too, right? I could be talking about Nkrumah. But we observe Kwanzaa here, some of us. And you could consider it a Pan-African holiday because it is cultural expression, right? That reflects the first harvest that is present in many African cultures. So it's not just, although it's brought together in the context of Africans in the United States, it is embedded in many traditional African cultures, right? The first harvest. All right, so that being said, thank you all for contributing your time, your energy, your life force to doing this on this Saturday afternoon. And I will be posting the materials in, so you'll have a lot of visuals this week. I'll repost these two items, DuBois and Nkrumah, in there, and then I'll be posting the film Cuban African Odyssey. Please make sure you watch it in its entirety, because that would be the subject of our discussion as opposed to reading. And then I'll be resuming with some reading on next week when we come together to support the film and the footage that you're seeing. But I do want to appeal to, different kind of learners in the context of teaching this, so that you have some visual stimulation in addition to, the written word. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. I am because we are. Please be safe if you're celebrating the new year, moving out and about. We're in a different world right now. And tomorrow is the new year, or the last day of Kwanzaa, which is Nia, and that's purpose. So I'm sorry, Nia is faith. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. And I am because we are.
Yes, thank you very much.
I am because we are. Thank you so much. My apologies, there's a bit of noise background at my end, but I wish you all a pleasant new 2023. We appreciate you supporting us throughout the year 2022. Thank you so much, ambassadors, members, and also Pan-Africanists. We appreciate all of that. And also let's continue enjoying celebrating the Kwanzaa. And today we are on Kuumba. So we all say Habari Gani, and we reply by saying Kumba. So let us all enjoy this day, and we appreciate you. We're crossing over. Some of you are crossing over to 2023 in a few hours. Some of you are still in the morning, some of you in the afternoon. So wish you all the best in the upcoming new year. Thank you for the love and support for the I Love Black People movement. Keep on supporting us and also be involved in our new plans for the next year as well. I am because we are enjoying the rest of your day, your evening, and the rest of the last day of the 2022 in love and peace. Thank you all. Stay safe. I am because we are going to